je vais faire ma présentation en anglais parce qu'il va être plus pertinent. Okay, I will pass this the fastest that I can. It's my presentation. I am from Argentina. I was born in a city that is called Escal in the Patagonia. I am Bachelor of Arts in Modern Literature for the University of Córdoba, and I currently work as an assistant professor in the Professorat de Literature in the Université Nacional de San Luis. I also do a lot of work like as an editor for a technology magazine that is getting started, and also a petite maison d'édition. It's like a little publishing project that I conduct with a colleague from Córdoba. Okay, this is a little review. I'm a little bit of a debutant with digital poetry. I came from the field of the analogic poetry, I guess, or more traditional format of writing. And these are my first two poems books that I published with 10,000 Cosas. This is Quirks, and it's the first part of a trilogy that makes a mix between science fiction, poetry, and formats that involves scientific approaches on language, and then also mathematics, informatics, and computer sciences. Okay, my first so-called project of digital poetry is called NiQR. It involves the QR codes that are this matrix of pixels, two-dimensional, that well, they have many uses. You could store information, decode information, communicate several dispositives between them, and then get online. It's like an open source medium of communication and storage of data. That is relevant for the project that I was doing here in Cotonou. This is my first approach with the QR codes and poetry. This involved writing of classical Japanese poems that are called haikus, but with a different take, because I try to imagine this dystopic future when civilization is in the verge of disappearing, and then there is a culture of microchips and nanotechnologies that could be only expressed in few many words, like a haiku. Here I start to experiment with the relation that exists between the image and the words. And the hypothesis behind this work is that if I make so many changes to the picture, editing one time and several times, the redundancy of the code will be lost, and all you are going to get is an image, but not a poem in the verbal way. But if I manage to transform the image just enough amount of times not to destroy the code, you can scan it and you'll get a haiku. So it's an idea of the survivor of the image, and it's like an analogy of the survivor of culture in a dystopic future. Okay, this is P2P. It resembles the peer-to-peer mode of file transfer, and it's poetry that is made with the source code of poems and HTML pages. It has an inspiration in printed art and and graphic design, but it's made with sentences of languages, of programming languages, and also tries to make a relation between the programming languages and the so-called natural languages, which we use on a daily basis. Okay, and finally we are here in Cotonou, and the residents, the artists on site. Memory or memoir is a project that involves these stages of work that I had been doing with the haikus, but it involves a more political approach with the work, because it has to do obviously with memory, but specific uses of both the memory as a process of storing information, but also the memory that is imbricated in many, I don't know if in English is the right term, in supports and different mediums. And then in order to conduct this project, when I started in Argentina on March last year, I would write little poems about people that was kidnapped in the last military dictatorship in Argentina, and make these very simple QR codes and put it in specific places of the city. The idea is take one of the basic functions of the QR code, that is to give the scanner the possibility of decode information in places where there are no easy access to the internet or to a digital environment, and use the medium that is the QR code, but as a message. The message in this case is, well, we have to remember this person that was kidnapped. Well, when I found out about the artistic residence here in Cotonou, I was starting to develop this project. So it's the idea that brought me here. But the interesting thing about it is that when I get here, I realized that hence I'm thinking memory as a process, and like the Czech philosopher considered. Sorry, I take this idea of Willem Flusser, a Czech philosopher, that he worked very specifically about the term of technical image, and he was one of the pioneers of the philosophy of photography. And then he made like this displacement in the thinking of memory, not only of the object or the person that thinks that are involved in memory, but the memory as a process. And the question that rises to think memory as a process is not only what we remember or who remember, but how to remember. So that was the leading question for me in my work process, because the challenge for me was how to remember, how to make a digital piece that involves memory in a place that is not my hometown, not my mother tongue, because, well, my French is not very good. So almost every my experiences here were like behind a curtain, or several curtains. So I realized that the straightforward and political approach that I did take in Argentina had to change to a more simple but quotidian approach. And then we had okay, no, it's not finished yet. Sorry. Okay. Okay, the last thing that I was talking about is like the theoretical dimension of the work. Now we're going to move more to an aesthetical dimension, and all the aesthetical dimension of the work takes a little bit of the QR code as an image. So every piece in the work is in this very simple monochromatic scale of colors, white and black and white. But then it also takes a very, at this point, classical way of doing poetry that involves the visual arts, the graphic design, and poetry. So I think to make these posters that at this time are exhibited as a splash chief, and I was very inspired by this Catalan poet, because before getting here I spent 3 or 4 days in Barcelona, and I visited this exhibit about Joan Brossa. The interesting thing about Joan Brossa is that he was a poet, but he also was a graphic designer and a visual artist. So I was inspired by this interdisciplinary approach and methodology, because I sometimes do graphical design too, and I'm an editor as well. So I think I thought the best way to show the work, to display the QR codes, were a graphical design, a poster that you can place in every wall, or even though you can print it on a sticker and put it anywhere. Okay. The other aspect is the material aspect. I worked with everyday objects, so I took this part of the poem. Is a receipt that I got in an ATM in the Avenue Germain Olorito Claire, à côté de l'Institut. We will go almost every week to the ATM to take money, and a funny thing happened. Because of my bank card, all the receipts that I got there were like this. The first thing that I thought was that, thank you. The first thing that I thought is, well, the printer is out of ink. But then we were to Gagny, Cartier, and we were at a different ATM, but the same bank. I did a withdrawal of money, and then I get the same figure, but a different. There is a different headline. This is like every ATM has a name. The name of the ATM in Gagny is Phoenix. So when I saw these things, I took it like a sort kind of message, and I interpret the receipt as a graphical poem written by a machine. And then I realized that I could do on it a reading of the poem, an interpretation of mine, and codify it by a QR. So when I looked at the name, I instantly think in the constellations, the constellation of Orion. And then I look at the signs, and I realized it's like a cross. And it's very similar to the South Cross or Cruz del Sur. There is a very common constellation in my country when you're lost and you don't have a compass with you, or you don't have Google Maps or whatever. Just look at the sky and you know where the south is. And my home is south. So the little receipt in my pocket is like a compass that points south. Well, that's much like the poem. And the version that is exhibited in the Espace Chiffre is in French. So if you scan it with your cell phone, you will get my interpretation of this poem that was written by a machine. And every time I go there and do a withdrawal of money, I get the same poem over and over again. Okay, this other one that I'm going to show you is an object poem. It's a little bottle that I found at Haujun Beach. Haujun? Yes, at the beach that is nearby the Rue de Pêche. Well, there are many common sense meanings associated with bottles at the sea. When I found it, I was really moved and overwhelmed by the sea, because I'm a Mediterranean guy, so whenever I go to the sea, I just got like this. So I was like that, and I had this idea of make a recording, and I recorded a minute, an exact minute of the sea, and then I found the bottle. So the idea that I had is that, well, this is a bottle someone threw to the sea. So when you scan this little code here, you will get, if you go to the Espace Chiffre and scan that code, instantaneously you get the option to send me an email. And I asked the person that interacts with the poem to send me a memory that it had. My memory associated with this battle is that one that I just told you. But the person, if it feels like it, they can send me a message. And then this message that is written there, I think it doesn't see it. It says 404 code pas trouvé. It's the message that you get when URL that you put in your browser goes nowhere. It's this idea of the person that is isolated, but we can think a digital ocean sends a message that doesn't go anywhere. Okay, and the last piece. It's called Prenez un minute de mer. Well, it's an attempt to make a digital tea. It has, the first intention was to make the actual object, but then I thought that the best way to display the idea behind the conceptual approach of the poem was to digitalize every object. So I did a scan of a seashell that I found in the same beach that I was telling you about, and then I thought of the recording that I made, and remember old advertisement that is in Argentina that says you have to take at least 5 minutes to be calm, to chill, and to have a cup of tea. So I thought this idea of, well, take 1 minute, but no for a drink of a cup of tea, but listen to the sea. So when you scan that code, you will be redirected to a link where is hosted this recording that I made with 1 minute of the sea. The thing that I would like to add about this poem is like it involves a gesture that is every time more often, and is this one, to take our smartphones and take it to our ear. Whenever we listen to a voicemail or an audio on WhatsApp or whatever, we do this. When you scan the code in order to listen the audio, you're doing the same thing. This gesture, it has a very quite similar resemblance with the gesture of taking a seashell to your ear. So the poem works like a digital seashell.
Gracias.